Hi, my name is Kat, or Free Librarian, and welcome to a new video. Today I will be sharing my TBR for or fantasy bingo, or rather my pile of possibilities, because I don't really have like a set TBR. I wasn't actually gonna make a TBR for this. I was just gonna see like what I filled up naturally, and then maybe in a few months I could look at what I had still left and be more intentional about it. But then other people posted their TBRs, and I just, like in the shower, books came to mind that I could use for things, and so I kind of accidentally made a TBR. I have a couple options per prompt. I might even read something else entirely, but I want to have a couple of options per prompt. The common denominator with a lot of these is like when I read what it was, like the prompt, I first panicked, and then one book came to mind, and as soon as I had one, multiple would come pretty quickly after that. I'm gonna try to black out the board in hard mode, but I'm willing to take like an easy mode if that's what it takes to complete the board. So for each prompt, I have a couple of options that are a bit of a mix of things that work for hard mode and things that don't. But so yeah, without further ado, let's get started because I have quite a few books to talk about. So the first square on the board is trans or non-binary protagonist, and the hard mode is that it's a pre-modern setting. My sort of primary main option for this is Wrath Goddess Sing by Maya Dean. This is a Greek myth retelling. It's like a Trojan War retelling. And in that story, like in like the cycle of the Trojan War, there's this one episode where Achilles tries to hide so that he can avoid going to war, and he hides on this island with like a bunch of women. Like I mean, there's also men on this island, but he hides in the women's quarters of this palace and dresses up as a woman, pretends to be a woman, so that they don't find him. Maya Dean took that episode in this cycle and was like, what if instead of just pretending to be a woman to avoid having to go to war, what if like Achilles was actually a trans woman? And that is what the story is. I'm really excited. I'm really curious to see about this one. I've been wanting to read it for a long time, and this might finally be the push to read it. Then I have some backup options as well. The newest installment in the Singing Hills cycle could work because they're following Cleric Chi, who uses they them pronouns, so I think that works. For like non-binary protagonist, and like this world is also quite pre-modern. I don't know what the new novella is going to be about, but the series follows Cleric Chi, and in every installment they like travel around this world to collect stories, and each novella is like a different place with a different story. So yeah, I'm really excited because I really like this series. And then my last option for this is The Palace of Eros by Caro de Robertis, which is also a Greek myth retelling. Who am I? I know. This is the story of Eros and Psyche, except Eros in this version is gender fluid. So that could be interesting. This one has also been on my radar for quite a while, and I've been meaning to read for quite a while. So yeah, that is definitely also an option. Then the second square on the board is to judge a book by its title, and the hard mode is that you don't really know anything else aside from that. So I have a couple that like I was like the first one that I thought of was like the newest Matt Haig book, but then I was like, I'm not judging it based on the title. It's because I like Matt Haig. And so I'm not really judging it based on the title, I'm judging it based on the author, if that makes sense. So I tried to limit it. I really went with books that had something in the title that really spoke to me. So starting off, I have yet another Greek myth retelling. I don't know why there's so many so close together because that's not my main genre. But oh well. And that is The Hymn to Dionysos by Natasha Pulley. I love Dionysos. He is probably my favorite Greek god. He is so interesting and fascinating and complex and multifaceted, and he's full of contradictions. And so I'm so curious to see what angle Natasha Pulley is gonna take with this retelling. So yeah, I'm very excited. I've been wanting to try Natasha Pulley for a while as well, so this is definitely a good option to start with. Then I have a middle grade, which is The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. I don't know what more to say, but like sort of this idea of just traveling to all these different impossible places. I do like books where we're like traveling to a bunch of different places, like each have their like little world building type thing, like if we're traveling dimensions or like islands that are all very different from one another. I do really enjoy that in books, so I think that this could be one of those. Then I have Circus of Wonders by Elizabeth McNeil. I do like a circus story. I know I like the vibes of a circus story. I find them fun, so this could be an option. Then I have the Dutch edition, checked out from the library, but the English title is A Midnight Pastry Shop Called Hwabbledang, by An Walid. It's like Korean healing fiction, which I do enjoy. And this one has pastries. Like it has food. I like baking. I like baked goods. I like bakery things. So yeah, that could definitely be an option. And the final one is another middle grade, and that is The Labyrinth of Lost and Found by Jordan Lees. I like Labyrinth. I think they're really cool and really fun, like Labyrinth stories. But also like the Labyrinth of Lost and Found. Like that title sounds kind of poetic. I mean, you're not gonna have like a super lyrical writing style because we are in middle grade, so you're not gonna like pull open all registers typically. But still, like I really like this, like the vibe of that title. So those are some of my options. I can't really tell you too much about any of them because that is part of hard mode. Like for easy mode, I could have gone with A Desolation Called Peace by Arcady Martin because that title is a Tacitus reference, which I love, and every time I think about that, it makes me happy, but I just know a little bit too much about the series to truly put it in here for hard mode. But this could be an easy mode option. Then for the third square is a book that is translated from a language that you don't speak. Hard mode is that it was first translated within the last 5 years. This is not a hard prompt for me. I do like the sort of extra, the extra of it has to be from a language that you don't speak. I still prefer the wording like originally written in rather than translated from, but I don't hate this. So, yay. The first option that I have is a reprint. It is a midnight pastry shop called Hwaeldang by Onwali. I don't speak Korean. This was first translated to Dutch this year, I think. Pretty recently, 2025. So this works. Another option is one I'm currently reading, but I have on ebook, so I can't hold it up. I'll put a picture. And that is The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop by Asakura Takuya. This is another healing fiction, except Japanese, which I also don't speak. And I'm really enjoying it. About halfway through, and it's great. You're gonna see this one returning a few times as well. But so yeah, this is an option too, and it was translated, I think, also this year, so that works. Then one I have on hold from the library is On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maia. This is a dystopian novella by a Brazilian author, and so it is written in Portuguese, which I also do not speak. And I've been wanting to read this for quite a while. I've had this on hold since December, I think, and it's almost my turn. I think like a month left of waiting, so I'm really excited to be reading this. It's about this prison where like every once in a while there is this sort of like a hunt where like the prisoners are hunted by other people, but like some also try to take this opportunity to escape from this prison. It sounds cool. I've heard it's quite brutal, but I'm excited. And then an author I put here as a potential is Isabel Allende, who I've been wanting to try for a long time as well. But I would have to check like what books one work, because I know that at least some of her books are magical realism, but I don't know if all of them are. And I also don't know how old each of them are and when the Dutch translations came out from each of them. So I would have to like search a little bit more for that. But that is also, or like her books are also an option for this. Then next we have a small press or self-published book, hard mode. It says less than 100 ratings. I have 4 options for this. One of them I have already read by now because it was only a novella. That is The Glass Slippers by Karen Green. This is the second book in the Gift Rights Shop series, which is a cozy mystery series about this shop where they make magical glass. And in The Glass Slippers, the fairy godmother from Cinderella comes to commission some glass slippers. Like each novella is about like a specific like special commission that they get, and them having to figure out how to do that. And so like this one is like, okay, how do we make glass wearable? So like sort of the compromise between art and practicality. It was really good. I really recommend. I've now read the first 2 books in the series. I really recommend it. So that is an option. As of filming this, it has 3 ratings. One of those is mine. So definitely less than 100. Another book that I have is Whisper for Eternity by Melissa Stone. This has been on my e-reader for quite a while. I had it for review at some point a long time ago, like longer than I'm willing to admit, to the point where I kind of forgot what it's about. I think it's a romantasy of some kind, or at least like romantasy adjacent, like the same type of vibes. But other than that, I don't really remember much of what it's about. And it has 0 ratings on Goodreads as of filming this, so I should probably try and get to it. Oops. Then I have A Night So Dark and Full of Stars by Nikki Lee, which is a fantasy short story collection that I also have for review. Like, I just listed things that I have for review for this prompt because I have a couple that worked. Um, it has 16 ratings as of filming this, and then the final option is The Sound of Nothing by Nicole Aisling, which I've also had for a long time. Like, the sequel has already come out. It has 38 ratings as of filming this. But so yeah, I really need to get going with my review copies because I keep putting them off. And here I just listed all the ones that have less than 100 ratings to hopefully read a couple of those in the next year. Then the next square is unusual transportation. So it is unusual both in our world and in the genre. So like, for example, witches flying on brooms is not very common in our world, but it's like a pretty common trope. So that doesn't work. But something unusual and hard mode is that it's not combustion or steam powered. I only really have one option for this prompt. Like, there's only one that I could really think of. Maybe I think of some other ones later on. But I have The Strength of Few by James Islington. The sequel to The Will of the Many, because I already read The Will of the Many and I want to continue on with the series. But they have like these obelisk things that like float through the air and do transport things. So like that could work. That is like the one that I thought of. But if I come across something else, I could also replace this with something else. This series is the Hierarchy series, Roman-inspired fantasy, where we're following Viz, who his land has been conquered by the hierarchy, and he wants revenge type of thing. And, you know, to take down the system. And yeah, I really liked the first book, so I want to continue on with the series. Then next we have the Afterlife, so a story that either is like set in the afterlife or just deals with like spirits, stuff like that. And hard mode is there's no like good versus bad distinction. So like no heaven hell type situation. I have 2 books that I know deal with the afterlife, but I don't know if they work for a hard mode or not. So first I have The Briar Book of the Dead by A.G. Slatter. This is about a witch who comes from a long line of witches, and her power is that she can communicate with the dead, and we go from there. And then the second one is Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko. I read Raber quite a while ago now, but I'm pretty sure that like they're going to descend. Well, I know that they're going to descend into this other world that I'm pretty sure was like something afterlife, or at least afterlife adjacent. I don't know if there's going to be a good versus bad separation in there. But if I remember correctly, like it did kind of deal with that. Then the next square is Game Changer. So there was like games competition in the book, and the hard mode is that the main character breaks the rules in some way. Whether it works for hard mode is something that you usually figure out as you read. Like, you don't really know that typically going in. So I have 2 books here that have a competition in them. One that I have currently out from the library, and that is The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell. In this book, we follow our main character who enters this competition that will grant you a wish if you win. And she wants to do that wish to return to this magical garden that she has been to like as a kid but can't find anymore. So sounds fun, sounds great. There is a competition, but I don't know if the main character is gonna like break or bend the rules. Another option that I have that I still really would like to read is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Um, I mean, the Hunger Games are obviously a competition, and from this is Haymitch's games, and we learn a little about that in Catching Fire as well, and they're talking about like how he uses the force field, um, which I don't know if that qualifies as like bending the rules, but it was like not the game maker's intention that any of the people would do that. So we'll see. Maybe there's like other things here that work for that. But I don't know that because I haven't read it. It's really hard to avoid spoilers for this one. Like, I never really struggled with avoiding spoilers for anything. Really, like this is the first time that like people are just so bad at indicating spoilers for this book. I mean, a lot of the things you know already because like you know that Haymitch is alive for the first trilogy. Like you get some information in the in Catching Fire about his games. So like there are certain things that you know. There is one thing though that I've seen one thing a few times, and I'm not entirely sure if it's just like a fan theory or if it is in this book. I hope it's the former because I think that it just thematically really undermines the original trilogy if it were to be true. So I'm just gonna fingers crossed that it is only a fan theory, and if it isn't his book, then I will just burn it and pretend it doesn't exist because I think that like a big part of like the stories of the original trilogy was that aspect. And if we're now gonna undermine that, no. So we'll see. But I trust Suzanne Collins to not let me down. So yeah, that is this square. The next we have a vacation spot, so a place that you want to travel to, where there is not a hard mode. For this one, I have like a couple of tentative options, but for this one, I really want one where in the book you get this sense of place really clearly. I just want like like there is worlds that could be very beautiful and like but like I really want something where like you feel the place and you get this like these descriptions of the locations and stuff. So I don't know if that is going to be true for these, but I listed a couple that could be possible. So one, I have the Winter Garden. Again, like I hope that his garden is going to be described. I do quite like beautiful nature when I'm traveling. Like I like to visit nature. I always try to go to like some type of botanical garden, or if there's like a castle that has a pretty extensive garden, like I try to visit those type of things because like I like looking at plants. What can I tell you? So like I'm really hoping that we're going to get those descriptions of plants and of the garden here, and it's going to be really transportive, and then this could definitely work. Another one that I also already mentioned is a midnight and pastry stop called Wawoldang. Like especially the English cover of this looks great. It looks like a place I want to go. So this could be an option. Other than that, I also have The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields. Just look at the cover. Need I say more? There's like a fantasy romance about a honey witch who falls in love with this other woman, except honey witches are cursed that they can't fall in love, and it to do with that. So that is an option. And the last one is Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. This is a YA fantasy about this hotel that appears and disappears, and like the hotel itself is a bit like weird and labyrinthine as well, which also sounds great. I do like a good hotel setting in a book, so I've been wanting to read this for quite a while as well. I'm really excited for it. So this could also be with something like maybe like I want to go to this hotel, if it sounds nice. So yeah, those are a few options. Um, we'll see. Then there is a prompt that is to read 5 short stories, and the hard mode is to read a full collection or anthology. I have a couple options for this as well. One I already mentioned, that is A Night So Dark and Full of Stars by Nikki Lee, which I mentioned in the small press or self-pub square. I have this for review, so I really want to read this. Also, the cover is just really stunning. Like, this particular shade of blue is just so stunning, and I really like it. So yeah, I hope that anyone will love this book. I am really excited to get to it. Then another one that I have on my 26 books to read in 2026 that could work is The Aleph and Other Stories by Jorge Luis Borges, which is a collection of magical realism short stories by Borges, who's, you know, a pretty famous, like a pretty important person in like just Latin American literature in general. And I've been wanting to read some of his short stories for a while. So I have this one, and as I said, it's on my 26 books to read in 2026. So that means that I should technically read it before the end of our fantasy. So that is an option. Then I also have Where We Go When All We Were Is Gone by Sukoya Nakamatsu, which is also like a magical realism short story collection that is still on my Herkied TBR. One thing though is I don't know if there's going to be enough stories in here. Like, I'm pretty sure that you need at least 5 stories for the collection, because otherwise, like, you don't complete easy mode. So there's just I'm not sure if there's going to be enough stories in this collection for it to work, but we'll see. And the last option that I have is with a thank you to Leandra from the channel Leandra TBR0, and that is Glass and Gardens Solar Punk Summers by Serena Ulibari. I'm pretty sure that this is the short story collection that she read for the previous our fantasy, and it's just an anthology of a bunch of solar punk stories, which is a subgenre that I really want to, you know, I like the idea of that sort of this like optimistic, ecological idea of the future is something that really speaks to me, and this collection just sounds great. And also, like, the way she talked about it in her vlog sounds great, so I want to try it. So that is also definitely an option for this square. Then next we have an older protagonist, so 50 years or older, and the hard mode is that they don't have like a magical immortality or prolonging of their life. So I have a couple listed. In the recommendations thread, they recommended A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher, which is a retelling of Goose Girl, I think. I do like a good fairy tale retelling, and so yeah, this is the one that is on my TBR that I want to try, so it could be an option. And then 2 that I added since reading them. So The Glass Slippers by Karen Green, because I already mentioned it's about this shop reading magical glass, and the shop is owned by Hollis, who is the master giftwright, and his apprentice Neve. In Hollis, we don't get an exact age, but we know that he's pretty old. And he really, like in the first book, he really needs to find an apprentice to carry on the shop because he won't be able to do it for much longer because he is getting so old. So I'm going to assume that means that he's over 50. So that could be an option. Another one that I have is The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop because it is formatted like a lot of these healing fiction books are, that would just like have a person who encounters the bookshop and then we get like their story and then we go to a different person and we get their story and a different person and get their story, and like they're not exactly or not necessarily linked to one another, but they like sort of each come into contact with this bookshop. And I'm currently in like the chapter for the second person who arrives, and he is pretty old. Again, we don't get an exact age, but we hear that like he worked as like a train driver. That is not the right word, but I don't know what it is. For 40 years. And like I'm pretty sure that they won't allow a kid who's younger than 10 to do that. So like basic math tells you that he must be over 50. So that's an option. And I mean, he's like the main character in a pretty significant portion of the book. So I think that in like cases like this, that age of like the people that the sections are about can be considered a main character. So this could work. And then one that I was thinking of, like, do we know how old Amina El-Sarafi is? Because I'm kind of picturing her in my head as like around 50, but I don't know if there's like I don't remember if it's like in the text that she's that age or if that's just my imagination making her that. So I put her on my list with like a question mark, then it must be like the Tapestry of Fate because I already read the first book. But I don't know, help me out if you know. Then next I have to start a duology. There are so many duologies that I could start, like so many. I could list so many. So I decided to only list ones that like I have the first book right now. So the first one that I have is This Poison Heart by Kaylin Bayron. This is a YA fantasy about this girl who inherits this estate and she has plant magic. So that'd be fun. Now that I'm realizing this might also actually be a possible contender for Vacation Spot if like this estate is described nicely. So that could be an option. But I've owned this book for so long and I want to finally read it. Like I've been wanting to try Killing Bayron. I own 2 books by her. I should get my shit together and actually read this. So that is option number 1. Option number 2, I have out from the library as an ebook, and that is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli, which is a YA romantasy between a witch and a witch hunter. And I've heard nothing but great things about it, so I'm really excited to read that one. And one of my IRL friends is just keep poking me to like finally read it. And like every time I see her, like, have you read it yet? And every time I have to say no. So I finally want to be able to say, yes, I have, and you were right, it was very good. So those are the ones for duology. But as I said, I have so many options, like so many. So this could very well be something else. Then the next square is to pick a book from a book club or read along hosted on the R Fantasy subreddit, where the hard mode is that you have to read a current pick and like participate in the discussion as it's happening. I don't want to do this because I don't like Reddit. I find it very, especially like a big one like our fantasy is just really overwhelming to me. Like even on Discord, like if a Discord gets too big, I just stop, like I check out because I find it really overwhelming. Like a nice small Discord community, but bigger than that it doesn't need to be. So I don't want to do this. So I could just pick a book from the list and do that and just do easy mode for this. But then I thought, you know what? Within our fantasy, it is already like part of the challenge that you can like swap out one square for a past square. And there was one on the Pickable for last year that sounded kind of fun and I did want to do. So I was like, I'm just gonna swap this one out. And the prompt that I decided is from, as I said, last year boards, and that is the no ifs, ands, or buts. And that means that you cannot use, or that you need a title that does not contain the words the, a, or an, and, or, if, off, and but. And then the hard mode is that your title is 3 words or longer. I have quite a few options for this. One that I already showed you, this Poison Heart, 3 words, doesn't contain any of those, so this could definitely work for that. To stay with the same author, I also have Cinderella is Dead by her, which could work. This is about a world where Cinderella is a historical figure in this world, so many, many years later, and there is this ball every year, I think, where the women coming of age in that year are expected to find their husband in 3 nights, and if they don't, they disappear. And our main character doesn't want that. So, yeah. That could definitely be an option here. Another one that I've already mentioned earlier in this video that I have on hold at the library is On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maya. This definitely works for this one as well. Then on my 20 books to read in 2026, I also have When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill, which is a fantasy. So we have this town, I think, community, I don't know like what scale. I think it's a town. Where like at a certain point, all the women in this community suddenly turn into dragons. And we're now a little bit later. And so yeah, we follow that. So it's like a feminist type book that I'm interested in. So this works. And then 2 other options I came up with that are also on my radar that I would like to read soon, but I don't have as concrete plans for them. That is A Warrior Princess Assassin by Bridget Kimmerer, which is a romantasy, polyamorous. I've never read a polyamorous book before. Like I've read books that like have like a character where like it's mentioned once in passing that they're polyamorous, but like I've never read a book that is like about polyamorous relationships. So that'll be interesting. And then I also have One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, which has also been on TBR for quite a while. And yeah, it sounds interesting. It is the first book in a duology, so it could also work for like the duology book one. And it has like kind of tarot type things, but also dream magic, I think. But it's like the magic system is a little bit convoluted whenever I hear it, but I hope it's gonna make sense. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you in like a very short little thing here. So yeah, this is an option as like a YA romantasy. Then the next square is a book published in 2026, where the hard mode is that it has to be a debut. I don't, I have a couple of options, but none of them are debuts. Because I can't really think of anything, but like, I will find something. I don't really keep up with new releases all that much, and so I don't know what is coming out. It's more that. So like the ones that I know are coming out are usually like sequels to things that I've read, and so since they're a sequel, they can't really be a debut, if that makes sense. So the ones that I have that is the new Singing Hills book by Nevo, which comes out in May. The new Amina El Sarafi book, which is called The Tapestry of Fate, I think, which I think also comes out in May. Then I have The Thorn Queen by Sasha Payton Smith, which is the sequel to The Rose Bargain, which I reread in March in preparation for this one. It has like just come out. It came out earlier in April. And yeah, I'm just really excited. Like I reread the first book in preparation for this one, so this could definitely be an option. It is like a selection bachelorette type thing in like Regency England, and there's Fae. And then the last that I have as like sequel is like the new actor book that is announced that doesn't have a title yet, but is set to release in October, that I'm really excited for. So those are the sequel options. I also could read Agnes Auber's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett, which is about a cat shelter that also doubles like a portal to a different world, I think, which sounds cool. I've been wanting to try Heather Fawcett, so this could work, but again, also not a debut. Heather Fawcett has a lot of other books as well. And then the last option that I have is just because I own the ebook of this. So Fruit of the Flesh by Ivy Ophelia, which is like a gothic book about this marriage. I don't know that it works though. There is certain lines in the synopsis that give like the vague impression that it like they might be vampires, but it's never like outright stated. It's always like these books like give me a bit of a feeling that they might be vampires type of thing. So I don't even know if it even works for our fantasy in the first place, because you need to be speculative for that, which I'm not sure that this book is. But it came out in January, so. But also not a debut. Like Ivy Ophelia has other books out as well. Next square. Oh my god, this video is gonna be so long. Next square. Explorers and Rangers. The hard mode is that the main character has an animal companion. This prompt I'm struggling with a lot because I'm not sure what they mean by it. Like I don't know. I'm not sure what the prompt is. And this is not Reddit's fault. Like they did a really great job at like trying to explain it, but my brain just doesn't understand. So I have one option that I like have for myself, and the other ones are just things that were on the recommendation thread that other people said worked, and I'm just gonna trust them. One book that I've already read it in April, and that's why I added it, because I don't know if it works. So tell me in the comments if you know. But that is Raven 3 by Miriam Borgenmans. So like what is happening in here is that we have our main character who escapes imprisonment, which lands her in like the middle of this giant wasteland, and so she like tries to travel through it in order to like find a city or something, or like, you know, civilized world. Um, like not no one really has been there in like ages. And so it is kind of unexplored, and so she's in a way exploring it in order to find a way out of it. But it's not like she set out to go explore the wasteland. It's like, I'm here, I need to find people. So I don't know if this works. If it does, she does have an animal companion. Because like at one point she finds this dog in this wasteland, and she's like, "You're my friend now." And then it was one point in the book that they didn't outright state it or anything, but like the way something was described, I was like, did she kill the dog? But then 2 pages later, like the dog was like running around. I was like, okay, the dog is fine. I just misunderstood that one bit. But like I was a little scared there for a second. But the dog is not killed in this book. Important. So, yeah, that is an option. Like if this works, then I've completed this prompt. If it's not, I have some other options. The Everlasting by Alexi Harrow was mentioned on the recommendations thread, and I'm reading this for Reading Nymph. Her Discord book club is reading this in May, so that could be an option. Emily Wilde is also mentioned in the recommendation thread, which I can see. Another one mentioned is Malice by John Gwynne, which I own. Fun story about this particular copy of Malice. I bought it for a friend's birthday because, like, I know he's a fantasy reader, and this sounded like something that he might enjoy. And I gifted it to him. And I said, like, I hope that it, like, you know, this is like something that sounds interesting to you, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, it does sound interesting. And that's why I already read it and I own it already. And I was like, oh, oops. And then like, I said I hadn't read it and I didn't own it. And so a few months later, when it was my birthday, he just gifted me the particular copy that I gifted him at the time. So I own it because of that. But I've been told that this works for hard mode, so we could do that. Another one that might work for hard mode is the new Singing Hills book. This was not mentioned on the recommendations thread, but I think that it could potentially work because like Cleric Chi is going to these other places to collect these stories and like find out about the culture and stuff. So I feel like if Emily Wilde works, then this one works too. And they have a bird companion. So that worked for hard mode. And the final one that was on the thread that has been on my TBR for quite a while, and for a project I would need to read it potentially somewhere in the future, or like it's possible that I would have to read it for that project. And that is A Natural History of Dragons, which is the first book in the Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. But no animal companion in this one as far as I know. So we'll see. Then the next square is a duology part 1, so you have to read the second book in a duology. This is the only prompt where you can like use the same author twice. Namely, you could do like the first book in a duology, and in this one you could use the same duology for it. But the hard mode is that you don't do that. I just listed the duologies that I have read the first book, but not yet the second book for this one. And there's 3 of those. So I could read Redemptor by Jordan Ifueko, which is a sequel to Raybearer, which I'm really excited for, and I definitely want to read. I already planned to read it somewhere this summer, so that could work. I could read The Thorn Queen by Sasha Baton Smith. As I said earlier, I just reread the first book in preparation of the release of this one, so will hopefully read it pretty soon as well. And then the last one is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This one I want to read at some point, but I'm not in a hurry for this one. Like, I'm saving this for like when I need a quick little pick-me-up type thing. But it could happen. Like, it's very short type, like little, I said little pick-me-up when I need it. So yeah. Then we have a one-word title in the hard mode, and that it's not a proper noun. So no names of people, places, etc. I have a couple. So I already mentioned Malice that I could use. I also have now out from the library as an ebook Nonsuch by Frances Spufford, which is a historical World War II book, but there's like traveling between like dimensions, I think. That's what I'm gathering from the synopsis. It sounds great. I've been wanting to try Frances Spufford for a long time, so this could be an option. On my 26th in 2026, I also have Damsel by Evelyn Skye, which is, I think it's like a romantasy between like this woman and this dragon, which to be honest, I don't have high expectations for this one. I don't think I'm gonna like it. I actually think I'm gonna DNF this one, if I'm totally honest. But I do want to give it a try, you know. Also on my 26th in 2026 is Darien by C.F. Golden, which is like you have a city and then there are these noble families that are like scheming power, and then there's like a conspiracy to kill the king. But this one doesn't work for hard mode because like Darien is just the name of the city, so this one doesn't work. Another one that doesn't work for hard mode is Redemptor by Jordan Ifleko. Again, because a Redemptor is a title that is given to people, so I don't think that works either. And then one that I also have that does again work for hard mode is Overgrowth by Mira Grant, which is a first contact story that sounds really good. I think it came out last year or the year before that, and I've heard great things, so I'm intrigued. Then I have a non-human protagonist with hard mode that there are no human POVs in the book at all. So my first thought was I could use him to Dionysus here because I don't know, but reasonable guess that maybe Dionysus is going to be the only POV in this book. Who's a god, so not a human, so that could be an option. Then I thought the new Sarah J. Maas book, like they're all fae. I don't think they're gonna just throw in a random human POV for the sake of it. So that could work. But then I thought, hang on, it dawned on me, I had an epiphany. I can read Geronimo Stilton. Because they're all mice. And I've been wanting to relive my childhood a little bit and read some Geronimo Stilton. But like a lot of them are essentially just like contemporary realistic fiction type things, except they're mice instead of people. And I was like, that's not speculative enough. So I was like, I could read Fantasia, which is like the portal fantasy situation. But like I'm trying not to do rereads. I just want to do new things in here. And for Fantasia, like I read the first two books multiple times. After that, like I have read more in the series, just only once, and I don't remember how far I got in the series. Like I know I own more of them, or like my parents technically own more of them than I have read, but I don't know how far I got, and so I would have to reread quite a few installments before I get to new ones, which like I could do, like they're really quick, but to stay safe I could also pick a different series that I owned the first book of, that the first book would work, because I started it once as a kid, but I never finished it, and that is The Secret of the Fairies by Thea Stilton. Thea being Geronimo's sister, and we're following. Wait, this cover is. Hang on. There you have the same cover, but without the sparkles. A group of mice who just go to this fairy world to, you know, solve mysteries, I guess. And I don't think like it could also work for a vacation spot, because look at that cover. It's really pretty. But yeah, this is a book that, as I said, I started at one point. I don't really remember anything about it, but I never finished it, so it would be a first time read. I'm really excited. Really funny, because in all like Dutch sites, this is listed as the first book in the series, but like on English site, it is the second book, and I'm so confused as to why that is. Because like the book that is listed as like the first book on English, I also can't find anywhere else. Because I'm like, does that only exist in English? But like, that doesn't make sense, because like these are originally written in Italian. So like, why can't I not? I mean, I haven't really checked Italian websites because I don't speak Italian, but it's kind of random. But like, I don't know what's going on with that. I'm a little confused. But this is definitely an option that I could try. And then it dawned on me again. I had another epiphany. I could read comics. I haven't put a single comic on here yet. And I have one that is on my list of comics I want to read that is called Orcs and Goblins. It's by Jean Augustin and Diogo Saito. And I'm gonna assume that like the POV characters are orcs and or goblins. So this could work, you know? And I can read a comic, because I like comics. So yeah, I have plenty of options for this one. That sounds great. So yeah. Then I have a middle grade, and the hard mode is from a new to me author. So I just, again, I have so many options for this one as well. So I just listed a couple. I have The Last Cuentista by Dona Barbahiguera, which is like a space travel story that is about storytelling and the importance of storytelling. And I've heard great things. Like, everyone was loving it when this came out, so it sounds good. And then I have The Labyrinth of Lost and Found by Jordan Leese, which I mentioned earlier that I don't know a ton about, and I don't want to know a ton about because it no longer works for the other one. Same with The Train to Impossible Places by P.G. Bell. So yeah. I also have Pages and Co. by Anna James, which is about this girl who travels in and out of books, I think. That could be fun. Then I have a German one, which is Mitternachtkatzen, so like midnight cats, but there's no English translation of it, but it's about cats. You know, like I want to read the cat book, you know. And then the last option that I have is, well, that I've listed because I have plenty more, is The 5 Impossible Tasks of Eden Smith. I'm not sure if this is fantasy though. I think it is, but I like the cover and title give fantasy vibes, but like the synopsis doesn't mention anything, so we'll see. But can we talk about the English cover for this book? Like, what the fuck is this? Ew. Like, I'm familiar with the Dutch cover for this because I know this in Dutch, and that looks like this, which is pretty fine. Like, for a middle grade cover, this is like a pretty fine cover. What the fuck is this? Who designed this? Who approved this? Well, probably AI. Probably AI designed this because it kind of looks AI. Ew. No. Bad. Throw it away. Thank you. But yeah, that is for middle grade. Then the next square is first contact, where the hard mode is non-violent. First contact. The first book that came to mind is Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky, which has first contact, but it doesn't work for hard mode. So I wanted different options. Then I was recommended The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe, but I'm a little confused because like some people say that it works for hard mode and some people say that it doesn't. So I don't know. But I'm gonna be buddy reading this with someone, so this will probably be read and then I can still, judge for myself. And the other one I have is A Half-Built Garden by Ruthana Emrys, which I found because of the recommendations I've had, and I'm so excited for this because it sounds so good. It's a solar punk meets first contact story about aliens who come to Earth because they want to save humans from like a climate disaster. Which sounds great. I want to read that. So I'm going to read that. Simple as that. Then next is a murder mystery. Hard mode is the main character is not a detective or private investigator, which the first book that obviously comes to mind is A Drop of Corruption. Well, the Teenage Cup, but I already read that one. So A Drop of Corruption, but that doesn't work for hard mode. So I wanted other things. In the recommendations thread, they mentioned The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, like the main character is a scholar. And also a memory called Empire. I did not know this had a mystery in it. Interesting. So, but that is a possibility. Another one that I have that I own the ebook of is like an self-pub one, and that is the Mudpuddle Manual of Natural Magic. It is about this the synopsis was a little bit convoluted. So we have this heiress who inherits a magical bookshop, I think, because a family member, like a pretty distant family member, dies. And she's going to investigate that family member's death. But also she didn't know magic exists, and now she comes into contact with magic. I think it was something like that. It was a little bit convoluted, but yeah, it does sound fun, and I really like the title and the cover as well. It's kind of pretty. So, it's by Kiara Bloom. So, yeah. Then I have a book over 500 pages where the hard mode is over 900 pages. This actually worked perfectly because I have a buddy read planned with Kirsten, reading them over on our Discord and a few other people in that Discord for the Dandelion Dynasty. Because, well, Kirsten and I both read, I think we actually read the first book for the book club in that Discord. But I could be wrong. Anyway, we both read like the first book, and there were a couple of other people in Discord who also only read like the first book and never continued. So we're just gonna like reread book one and then continue on with that. And the third and fourth book in that series are both over 900 pages, so that could work. Another option that I have is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, because for my like reading books that were recommended to me for my birthday little project, this was one of the books that was recommended to me, and it is over 900 pages. So those two could be possible options. Then I have Food or a Meal is important in the book, and the hard mode is to make the thing. So the first one that came to mind is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. There's like a gingerbread guy on the front. Like, I could make gingerbread. I could make a gingerbread house, perhaps. That could be an option. That could be fun. So this could work. It's like our main character like bakes things and like they come to life, I think. Really cool. Another one that I thought of was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which I've never read of Travis Baldree. So, well, I tried Bookshops and Bonus at one point, but I just wasn't in the mood, so I put it down. But so this could work, and I heard about this scene where like they make cinnamon rolls. I can make cinnamon rolls. Then I maybe could also do like the Midnight Pastry Shop called Hwabolang, by Anwa Lee. That's an option. Or The Bliss Bakery by Catherine Littlewood, which is a series that I loved as a kid. It's by this magical bakery. Read the first 3 books as a kid, but there's a lot more out. I pretty recently, like I thought that was going to be it, like the first 3 books, but there's so many more. I think they're like up to 9 at this point. So I was like, I want to read those. So I could potentially like reread the first 3 and then continue on. Like I read these books so quickly, especially the second book I've read so many times because like if I have a bad day, I just reread one. And it goes really quick. It's like a middle grade series. And it just always makes me feel better. So it's my comfort reread. So yeah. Then the next square is a book that was published in the 70s where the hard mode is that it needs to be by a female author. So I feel like a lot of people are going to go towards Ursula K. Le Guin for this one. So I have a couple options by her as well. I could read The Dispossessed or the Laugh of Heaven, or Malafrina. All 3 of those could be options. I've been wanting to try Ursula Le Guin for so long, so we could try. But another one that I have is Dragon Quest by Anne McCaffrey, which is the second book in the Dragon Riders of Pern. I haven't read the first book yet, but like the first book came out in 1968, so it doesn't work for the prompt. But the second book was 1971, and so that does work. And I've been really wanting to try this series. So I think I might go with Anne McCaffrey. We'll see. Then the second to last part, we're almost there. Okay. Politics or Court Intrigue, where the hard mode is that it is on a city level or lower. So the recommendation thread told me that The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri would work for this. So I'm gonna trust them on that. This is like the rest of the series, the scope gets bigger, but like the first book could work. So that is an option. Angela from the channel Literature Science Alliance, she recommended The Mask of Mirrors and said that the series is about like, oh my god, it's so floppy. Look how floppy. It's about like the politics of this particular city. So that could definitely be an option. I've been wanting to read this one for a while as well. And it is also one of the books that got recommended to me for my birthday. So I could read it in that project. So that's an option. Then again, we have Darien by C.F. Iggulden, which I don't know if that works for hard mode because the synopsis speaks of like a city where they're fighting for power, but then they're also talking about like a conspiracy to kill the king. And so I'm like, is it like the king of like an empire, or is it like the king of a city-state? Because like the series is also called The Empire of Salt, and empire is like bigger than just one city, right? But like the king could just be one city, so it could be like that the first book is about the city and then we expand later on, like in The Jasmine Throne. But we'll see. We'll have to read it to know. And then the last one is a very recent edition, thanks to Kitty from the channel Kitty in the Books. I ordered it, a copy is on my way for this one, and that is The Just City by Joe Walton, which is a sci-fi book that has a city, like is a play on, or a take on the Republic from Plato, which I love. My boy, love him. So I, like, it's not my favorite text of his, but I do like him. And I like it when people, you know, give their take on his work. So I'm really excited for it. It sounds great. It sounds like completely up my alley. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for my copy to get here. Oh, so many good books. Okay, and then the final square is a author of color, where the hard mode is that they don't live in US, UK, Canada, Australia, or New Zealand. And have quite a lot of people listed. And this is not hard for me. Like, I mean, I thought at first that it would be, but then I started listening to things, I was like, and it just kept going. Anyway, my main like top option is Womb City by Lotto Savase. I'm reading this for my university book club in May. It's a sci-fi by a Black author who lives in Botswana. So this could be an option. I already mentioned On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maia, who lives in Brazil. The Vanishing Cherry Blossom Bookshop by Asakura Sakuya, who lives in Japan. Midnight Pastry Shop called Hwabolang by Lee Onwa, who lives in South Korea. And The Elf and Other Stories by Jorge Luis Borges, who lives in Argentina. Other options that I have Out from the Library, Arabian Nights and Days by Naguib Mahfouz, who lives in Egypt. I don't know if this is a fantasy, but it's a retelling of like the story of 1001 Nights, and so I think it could be. Now that I'm reading the synopsis, it might actually work for like the city politics one as well. Yeah, nice. This could be an option. On my 26 book story in 2026, I also have Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura, who lives in Japan. And then I also have The Great Library of Tomorrow by Rosalia Aguilar Solas, who lives in Mexico. So as you can see, I have a lot of options for this. Like, there's so many. I could keep listing things. I was like, I need to stop. Like, one of the authors that I thought for this one was like Nalo Hopkinson, because I know that she's like from the Caribbean. I wasn't sure like which country exactly, but then I looked it up, and well, she's born in Jamaica. She now lives in Canada, so she doesn't work for hard mode. But I do want to try her because she sounds like an author I could enjoy. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna stop now because I've talked for over an hour. And this video is just so long. So let me know if you are participating in our fantasy, and if you have any more recommendations for certain prompts, you can always leave them below, because I never mind expanding my list of possibilities, even if I have quite a few of them for some prompts already, as you heard. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've read some of the books that I mentioned here, and you think like that has to be the one that you read for this, let me know as well. But so yeah, I hope to see you again in the video soon. Bye.